Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. The study of Om is done from two angles. One, Om is used for inquiry purpose, for vichara. Also, this Om is used for upasana or meditation. Now, this inquiry, also this both use, but in the context here in the book, we are studying this as a mantra for meditation purpose. So we are not going too much of a detail into the philosophical inquiries into Om. We just touch and go. That's about it. We don't do more than that here. You know, in some other context, when we go there, that study was done more in detail. Like the fundamental principle is this: for you to understand the foundation, which is not visible for us, which is not known to us, you penetrate, you probe into what is superimposed upon that foundation. By inquiring the superimposed, we get to the foundation. Silence is the foundation. The sound is superimposed. And sound, articulated sound, becomes words. Those words becomes thoughts. That becomes our ideas and ideologies in life. Everything becomes from there. So we go to the very root, which is the sound. So therefore we study the sound. Of all the sounds, we choose this Om as a primeval sound, known also as Pranava. And this sound Om is what is the inquiry right now. That's what we are studying right now. But remember, we are not going into the philosophy of it. Philosophical thing is different. We are studying why we are choosing Om as the mantra, for which the first reason he gave was this. Said, why we are taking it? Because the sound Om has two aspects to it. One, articulate one, meaning every articulated sound has two things: a direct meaning and an associated meaning. For every word, what we use, there is a direct meaning, and also there are very many associated things possible there. Now, with Om, we find a lot of associated meaning possibilities. Even though there is no direct meaning possibilities we have, for Om, we have associated meaning. That's what we are going to see now. When we go there, we will see. Now, you know, the second, third reasons when we go, he explains that. But basically, he says, Any sound should be having two aspects. One, it should have articulate. Articulate means there are two things: direct and associated. Om has a lot of associated meanings. Thereby, it has a relevance as an articulate sound. Om. As an inarticulate sound, there is a tremendous intonational value for this sound Om. The sheer chanting of that gives a soothing impact on the mind, which puts the mind in a relaxed state. Thereby, when the mind gets relaxed, body also gets relaxed. So thereby, your entire system experiences a state of relaxation. So therefore, Om has intonational value, inarticulate. This inarticulate dimension is directed towards the heart, the feelings. The articulated sound directed to the head, intellect. So Om caters to both these equipments simultaneously, thereby the possibility of fusion, possibility of bringing this mind and intellect together gets more. There is a better chance for this mind and intellect to confluence, to unite. Therefore, we take this sound Om. So Om, first there is articulate value and there is intonational value, which is inarticulate sound. That sound triggers a feeling that we have seen. Now he is going to the second reason why Om is chosen for chanting. Om is constituted of three sounds, three letters: A, U, and N. In Sanskrit grammar, A and U coalesce to form O. Thus, A, U, N together is pronounced as Om. Even the mute can produce the sound of Om. Om, A is a guttural sound. It emanates from the throat. There is no sound below the throat. U is the sound produced when it courses through the mouth. And N is where it ends, when the lips close. There is no sound beyond that. Thus, Om covers the full range of sound, represents the entire phenomenon of sound. The chant of Om produces peace and harmony around. So the second reason he gives is, why of all the sounds we have taken Om? Because if you take the world of thoughts, all thoughts were words and all words were sounds. So, entire range of sound possibilities, if we can capture, if we can boil down all the sound possibilities, we boil it down to three things: starting, middle, and end. The starting of the sound, from where the sound starts. Sound is nothing but you throw out air through mouth. Sound comes. So when you open your mouth and throw out, natural sound comes is A. That's why the first letter is A. The moment you open your mouth, you throw that sound out, the sound you get is A. You will not get any other sound. That is a guttural one, throat. Then, when you bring it to the middle of your mouth, that same ah converts itself into oo, o. All the other sound starts coming in. And when you close your lips, the last sound that you get there is the same sound traveling, the air traveling through the mouth you get is these three sounds. Therefore, he says, the entire sound, world of sound captured in this one word, Om, covers entire range of sound possibilities. The moment you say sound possibilities, all word possibilities, all language possibilities, all thought possibilities, everything gets captured in this basic sound, covered in this basic sound. This is what he says. Why is this? Also, he says this sound represents the entire phenomenon of sound. Also, it produces peace and harmony when you chant it. So again, he is going back to this basic idea of, remember, the chant. The sound should not be agitating to the mind. In the seat of meditation, you are going to be sitting there to realize there you can't produce sound which is agitating. This is covering the entire spectrum. Also, it is soothing to the system. Therefore, he says, we have chosen the sound Om. This is the entire thing. This is what Taittiriya Upanishad says. Om iti Brahma says. Everything is, this entire world, entire thing is Brahman, is a world. The whole thing is this. And this Om has this basic quality. And then he gives this basic one, has to, this Om, that the vowel O is a diphthong, a compound of A and U. That A and U, when it comes together, it becomes O. That's why when you chant it as Om. You will get only two sounds there. And there are people who say you are not supposed to chant it like this, you are supposed to chant it as Aum. This is how you are supposed to chant. Because there are three. Because A, U, So, how are you supposed to chant? You are supposed to chant as Aum. Aum. This is how you are supposed to chant. Now, we say up to your choice. Now, we don't care in terms of which is, because it varies from person to person. There are people who will go for elongating the A sound. There are people who would elongate the U sound. And there are people who elongate the sound. Now, who is supposed to be elongating A, U, or Om, or Aum? All this depends upon the personality. It depends on what type of your personality, what is happening in you, which sound is producing what impact to your system. Based on that, you decide. This is the entire Shastra. That's a separate Shastra by itself. That's what we study as Mantra Shastra. They teach. They do a detailed study of production of every sound by you having an impact on the mind, on your personality. So it keeps varying from person to person. Then these three sounds were used in various permutation combinations. But basically, when we say Om, we just say it as Om. You would not find anyone who is saying it as Aum. See, Hari Om. We don't say Hari Om. It looks really funny for most of us. See, why? Because it's not used on a in a regular way. See, so how this has come about, even though we write it as A U from where you got that sound O instead of A U, how that A and U combine, fuse to produce O. It's the basic, grammar in Sanskrit. That constitutionally it is called as a diphthong, where they get it like this. So those details and all is not required for us, but you might as well know, because someone will ask you. You are saying it as A, U, but you are pronouncing it as Om. Why? How can you say that? Then you will be lost. You will not know why it is like this. Because this is a basic one. So that's all he is giving here. So the reason number 2 for taking Om to represent, because we need a sound which can represent all thoughts, because all thoughts are nothing but words. You can never have a thought without a word. And you can go reverse also. When you have more words, you will have more thoughts. That's how people enhance their vocabulary. More the vocabulary, better the speech is, better the talk is. He is able to present his ideas better. Why? Because he has more words. He knows more words. See, same way here. So when you have words, means thoughts, thoughts means words. Both were so interconnected. And all words were connected with sound, and all sounds can emanate from 3 positions: throat, middle of the mouth, palate, or the lips. Throat, palate, lips. Because when you chant Ah, there is no participation of your tongue. You see, there is no participation. When you say, the tongue comes into big picture. For many letters, you have to bring in that palate. The tongue has to come into. And when you say neither throat nor palate, who is participating is the lips. All sounds we have happens only application variations of these 3. Then we have this idea: sound, words, thoughts. So to study the thoughts, to understand the thoughts, we understand the words. By understanding the words, we can go. How can you get to the words? You get to the words through sound. So primary sound is Om. So we have this basic idea. So the mind is full of thoughts today. Your mind is full of thoughts. So the thoughts means sound. So mind is equal to thoughts, thoughts is equal to words, words is equal to sound. Therefore, mind is equal to sound. So what are we doing, sir? We are taking up a sound to which there is a feeling from the mind, also intellectual participation. So first, he explained why we have chosen Om from the perspective of sound pattern. He connects it to the mind. Now he is going to the intellectual aspect. Now remember, intellectual means articulate sound. Articulate means direct and associated meaning. In Om, there is no direct meaning, but there is associated meaning only. Now, what is the associated meaning is what he is going to explain now. Point number 3. Om symbolizes the pure consciousness. The consciousness that pervades the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. Represents the world experienced in the waking state of consciousness, while U represents the world of the dream state of consciousness, and the nothingness of the deep sleep state of consciousness. While chanting Om, the meditator must focus his concentration upon that pure consciousness, the supreme self that supports the 3 states all through life. Now this A, U, these 3 sounds, he takes and says these 3 sounds represents associated with waking, dream, deep sleep state. Waking state, A. Dream state, U. Deep sleep state, So this A, U, is taken is through these 3. And there are very many associated things. He is only giving one aspect to it. You see, this A, U, is taken to represent so many things. Now, each one had taken their own ways to represent it. There are people who have taken A to represent Brahma, U represents Vishnu, represents Shiva. So, Om represents what? Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. These 3 were represented by this. And then they say how everything, all that entire sound possibilities starts with A. And Brahma is the creator. So the starting point of the world is Brahma. Therefore, Brahma is equated to A. Correct. Then how come who is for Vishnu here? I am very smart, huh? You say. You have studied a lot actually this. How long can you keep your mouth open and keep saying ah? Mosquitoes will enter. You see, you can't keep your mouth open for so long. You can't sustain that sound for a longer period of time. Whereas oo can be, you can sustain that sound oo for a long period of time. Try some other time. Don't do now. Okay, when you are alone in the house, when people are there, don't do it. They'll think, completely gone now. After Vedanta class, off fully, they'll think, don't do all that, alone, or do it in the bathroom. Because anyway, when you go inside, you will start singing. Instead of singing, you do this, it's okay. You can sustain. You can sustain that sound for a longer period of time. Therefore, they said, who is Vishnu? Who is the maintainer, sustainer? Completion, ending point is Shiva. Destruction is Shiva. The sound which was created by Brahma, the throat, sustained by mouth, gets concluded at the lips. Therefore, they said is a representation of Shiva, whose job is to destroy. So, A, U, represents the Trinity. This is another interpretation. Right. Now, he is taking another line of thinking. Like this, there are very many associated things only we have. Remember, this A, U, is just associated things. Now, he says, waking state is A. Why? The starting point you are aware of is a waking state. Isn't it? The starting point is waking state. A is the first letter. Therefore, waking state is connected to this. The dream state comes in between. It is neither waking nor deep sleep. It comes in between state. Therefore, U is taken to represent dream state of consciousness. Deep sleep is the closing sound. The sound closes. So in deep sleep stage, what is it? Mind is in close, complete rest, no thoughts, nothing. Therefore, is taken to represent deep sleep state. So A represents the waking state, U represents the dream state, represents deep sleep state. Waking, dream, deep sleep. Then he says, when you are meditating, what you have to remember is the sound emerges and sustained merges back into silence. All sounds emerge from silence, exist in silence, merge back into silence. So therefore he says, when the meditator is chanting Om, his concentration should be where? The concentration should be what is it that is sustaining the waking, dream and deep sleep state, which is represented by A, U, So for A, U, what is the foundation? Silence. Similarly, what is the foundation of waking, dream and deep sleep state of consciousness? Is the pure consciousness. Therefore, they say, you focus on that silence. By focusing on the silence, silence represents what? Silence would represent, if A, U, were to be representing waking, dream, deep sleep state of consciousness, then the silence which is supporting A, U, should be representing the pure consciousness, which is supporting the waking, dream, deep sleep states of consciousness. Don't ask me to repeat. Some of them say, sir, repeat pannunga. No flow, I have said. That's it. Waking, dream, deep sleep. This is another associated one. So they have very many such associated things. We can go on and on and on. You know, A, U, is representing the three Vedas. This is one group. There's another one, you know, they say A, U, represents the three gunas. A, U, represents the three states, etc. It goes on and on and on, you know, because it fits in with everything. In a particular angle you look at it, it fits into it. Like we saw, waking, dream, deep sleep fits in perfectly here. Same way we see Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara also fitting in perfectly there. From one angle you look at it, it fits in there. From another angle you look at it, it fits in here. One angle you look at it as Gunatraya you see, also it fits in. Now, any aspect you see, Om accommodates and fits itself. It is so flexible. It is so vast. That is why they say the mother of the Vedas is Om. The starting point of all the Vedas is Om. This is the first thing. In fact, keeping Om as the reference point only, Brahma created the world. Manual. You know, manual is Brahma came much later. Om was existing even before Brahma. How is it? That and all don't ask me. But that's what the Veda says. Because he heard Om. As soon as Brahma was born, he heard Om. So, which means Om was there before him. So, from where it comes, what is it? That's why they say it is Anadi. This is eternal. There is no time in which it is not. So, this entire Veda is a commentary. Is a further exposition of the Om. Whole Veda is only doing what? Explaining Om. Explanation of Om, enunciation of Om is what is the entire Vedas. All the Vedas are giving only this. Explaining these three syllables. Om, A, U, So, A, U, has a tremendous possibility of associated meaning. But there is no direct meaning. That is why we chose this Om. Because one of the criteria we have for choosing a mantra is what I told you earlier. One of the things we are choosing, one of the factors we have to consider for choosing a mantra is that mantra should not trigger further thoughts. You see, you say Rama, 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 suddenly you will remember your friend or college professor. Suddenly you will remember your friend's brother, Sriram. He is supposed to give me 500 rupees. I have to give him 1,000 rupees. I better not ask him 500. Because if I ask him 500, he will ask me, give me 1,000 first. So reduce the 500, give me 500, he will say, why all this? Now you started by saying Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Where are you now? You've gone off somewhere. You see, it should not trigger such things. Therefore, Om sound by itself doesn't have a direct meaning. Thereby, that sound Om to trigger a new thought possibility cut off. But at the same time, associated thought possibilities keeps you in track. A fascinating idea. How they have conceived it. A mantra means at the seat of meditation. See, remember, we are not talking about what we practice as meditation today. Relaxation technique. Not in that sense. We are discussing about a person who is fired with the idea of realization. Fired to know what is that Brahman. So he's trying to capture that. He's trying to transcend the entire cycle of birth and death. This entire samsara he is wanting to transcend. To such a person, he can't afford to entertain thoughts just like that. Any other ideas? So all that associated ideas, possibilities also should be having only in connection with Brahman. So when he chants Om, he says waking, dream, deep sleep. There also his association is with what now? Not on the sound, man. What is backing that sound is the silence. So that silence is the captivating point. Therefore, he says, keep on that. Also, it has this. So, Om does not have a direct meaning, but has an associated meaning with Brahman. Also, it has a intonational value, soothing impact to the mind. 3 points. He has covered these 3 points in the first 3 points. Now he is coming to one issue. Fourth point. The mantra, word symbol Om, does not belong to any religion. This is not for the meditator. This is for you and me. Fourth point. In fact, we should be starting from here, actually. The mantra, word symbol Om, does not belong to any religion. It is merely a symbol of the ultimate reality. It represents the pure consciousness, the supreme God. It is nature's word, not subject to conjugation, inflection, or grammatical manipulation as other words are. Om occupies a very special place with reference to God. God is said to be omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. These words begin with Om. Even prayers in different languages end with Amen, Amen, which again is a reference to Om. Now, why he is giving is, those who are reading this book may get into a belief that this belongs to a particular religion or particular language. If not to a religion, they'll say it is particular language. Either they will say Sanskrit, or we are from Tamil Nadu. We will say what? No. Actually, it is Tamil. Om is Tamil word, actually. It is not Sanskrit word. Sanskrit people picked it up from us. This is what we will say. And the North Indians, those who follow Sanskrit, they will say what? No. This is a Sanskrit word. He says both of them are no one from any religion or any language can claim ownership to it. Or everyone can claim equal ownership to it. It's nothing to do with any particular language, any particular religion. And thus he gives few reasons for that. On what basis he says that? He says, look in English, how they explain God. The moment you ask a person to explain God, he says he is omniscient, omnipotent. Why this sound Om brought in there? No doubt, to the extent these people have exhaustively analyzed, researched, worked out with reference to Om, yes, it is done here in India. There's no doubt about it. No other country, no other system, no other language people have expounded to this extent. That is correct. But that sound cannot be owned by them. They have used it maximum. They have used it intelligently, maximized the usage of the sound Om, but no one can claim it. Otherwise, we will start fighting. Immediately, we'll say, see, our language has this Om, and this one, that one, and all that we will start. So he says, no man, you cannot claim. Nobody can claim, or you can say everybody can claim. So it depends upon your standard. But it's not possible that only few can claim. That is not allowed. Either we say everyone can claim, or you say no one can claim. There is no such thing as someone has more claim over this sound. Therefore, it is a universal sound, which is another reason why Om to be used. Is why? Because it is such a universal sound, such a natural one. The proof is all this he gives. In Persian also they have, we can go on explaining. Greek language is there, Latin it has, language-wise you take, and you take the world religions, you take, every religion has used it. See, every religion, there is not a single religion in the world which has an exception. Everyone has used. Now, how and all, don't ask me. See, those who want to know how, call me later. I'll explain. Right. You are going on record now. It will cause unnecessary problem for me. So I don't want to get involved with all those things. So we say, but there is no single exception. Not an exception we have. Everywhere they have used it. Everyone have used it. Why? Because it is natural. Otherwise, it would not be possible. So he says, we take this mantra, Om. So he has explained, he has given 4 reasons why we have chosen this mantra, Om, for chanting, for intoning. So if you have to intone, you start with Om. Of course, you can use any other mantra also. Now that depends on each individual. Now any sound you can take it up, but the sound that you are taking should fulfill all these factors, all these criteria. Which is the sound which fulfills all these criteria is the sound Om. Therefore, he says we have taken the sound Om. Now comes the catch. In the practice of meditation, the mind chants the mantra Om. Between every 2 successive chants, there is a momentary silence. That silence is known as amatra. The intellect discriminates between sound and silence, between matra and amatra. As long as the chant lasts, there is thought flow, which establishes the presence of the mind. And with thoughts flowing, the pair of thought and silence exists for the intellect to continue operating. In the peak of meditation, the chant ends in silence. The thought flow ceases. The mind becomes extinct. There is no longer the pair of thought and silence. Consequently, the intellect ceases. Thus, the meditator transcends both the mind and intellect. His individual self merges with the Supreme Self, gains spiritual enlightenment. Now he is explaining how chanting that mantra takes that meditator to enlightenment. This is the drama. He's just describing the drama of realization. What is happening at the seat of meditation, how meditation takes the meditator to enlightenment. To which we need to know what is the meaning of enlightenment. Okay. And then we need to know what is the meaning of mind, what is the meaning of intellect. Enlightenment means thoughtlessness. Thoughtlessness not in the sense like what we understand as coma state. Right? Not in that sense. Okay. It is a state where the thoughts don't emerge, but you are alert. That's what Ravana says. In the waking state, if you can bring in deep sleep, how can you, bring in, waking into deep sleep? Deep sleep, you bring in waking state. Now, how is it possible? It's like bring in night in the daytime. It's an impossibility, you see. But he makes it possible. How that is happening here is what he is giving here. When you are practicing the chant, right? You keep chanting Om, 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 Om. The person goes on chanting. When he is going on chanting, mind means thought flow. One thought doesn't become mind. When the thought keeps flowing successively, only there is mind. The flow of film is a movie, isn't it? When the film moves at a particular speed only, there is a movie. Otherwise, it's not a movie. It is a still picture. Isn't it? That's what you will see in the film. If you see the film, it's all still pictures only. Just picture, 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 picture. But in the projector room, when it is running at a particular pace, 24 frames or something like that. 24 or 18 frames, I don't know. What is the connection? 24 frames per second, something. They say that 24 frames per second, when it runs, you see a movie actually. You see a seamless movement. Watch it, the flow. Similarly, mind definition is thought flow. When thoughts flow, there is mind. The flow can be less or more, but nevertheless, there has to be a thought flow. Can be more or less. This is mind. Intellect, by definition, it means discriminating capacity. Discrimination means what? You understand this is different from that. That's all. That's called discrimination. Door is different from wall. If I have to enter the room, I should enter through the door, not through the wall. That is called discrimination. If you say that I am against all discrimination, sir, you should not have any discrimination in life, then I will say enter the room through the door, through the wall. That's where we need to remember. We are not discussing politics. We are discussing philosophy. In philosophy, the word discrimination is very beautiful. Right? Actually, there is nothing wrong with the word discrimination. Discrimination says only this. What does it say? This is different. This is different. Table is different from chair. You sit on the chair and keep your dinner plate on the table. Imagine, I am not going to have any discrimination, sir. Why discriminate between the two? What I am going to do? In my house, we will keep the dinner plate on the chair and we sit on the table. I'll say, don't invite me to your house. What discrimination? Discrimination is not wrong. You see, when we understand discrimination in the right sense of the word discrimination. But of course, politically, the word discrimination is wrong because we have a different meaning there. You see, but the word discrimination, dictionary meaning is only this much. You understand this is different from that. So here, the mind is chanting, Om, Om, Om. The chant is going on. When the mind is chanting Om, there is thought flow. Since there is thought flow, there is mind. So mind is existing. Then what happens? There is a discrimination happening. What is a discrimination? Sound, silence. Sound, silence. In fact, the better way is what he gives. Matra, amatra. Silence is not the right, because we think silence also something. See, sound, no sound. Sound, no sound. Don't call it as silence. Sound, no sound. Sound, no sound. Which is what we refer in normal language as silence. So sound, silence, sound, silence. So intellect is also alive, existing. A point comes where, and I have already explained why the mind stops the chant. This part of it I have already told. Right. Over a period of time, mind slowly switches over to something else and the chant is stopped. Right. In the practice, you consciously stop. What he is referring to is a state where the chanting stops by itself. You don't stop it. Right. It just stops on its own. When the chanting stops on its own, there is no thought flowing. Since the flow is arrested, mind is gone. There's no more mind. Then what is there? Till that point, intellect was discriminating between sound, silence, sound, silence, sound, silence. It was going on. Now suddenly, sound, silence, no sound. Intellect, he says in the Gita beautifully, he says, intellect gets perplexed, he says. What is that perplexion? This is what he says. It is stuck in that silence. And there is no other thought. Therefore, it cannot discriminate. There is no discrimination possibility. Their intellect also gone. For all purpose, intellect also dies. Mind is dead, intellect is dead. At the death of the mind and intellect emerges enlightenment. Jesus has to try for Christ to be born. Now we all want to become Christ. But we will not go through the crucifixion, we will not go through. See, painlessly can I become? That is not possible. That perplexion has to happen. That stuck there. The last bit is such a crucial moment. Traces of mind and intellect. Remember, all other thoughts are already gone. Now you can't say, will he get a thought of the world, this is happening, what is happening? What's happening in Afghanistan? He has transcended all that. Now he doesn't care. He doesn't care about what's happening in the neighbor's house. He doesn't care what's happening in his own house also. Now some of us will say, Appa, that is how I am already living, sir. Your life is not objectivity. Your life is indifference. If you say, I'm also not bothered about what's happening in Afghanistan, that's called indifference. That is not detachment. That is not objectivity. Remember, you better be bothered about it. See, you better be concerned about what's happening in the world, what's happening around you, what's happening in your country, what is going on. You better pay attention to what is happening around you. Now, Vedanta is not saying you should not. Now, we are discussing about a person who is totally different. Now, we are not discussing him as a common, citizen, please. This is a unique personality, unique individual he is, where he has become indifferent to what is happening to himself. If you can become indifferent to what is happening to yourself, then you can afford to become indifferent to what's happening around you. Indifferently, if you can have coffee without sugar or with sugar, with froth or without froth, half-baked chutney, sabji, half-boiled, they bring and put you, rice, which is like halwa. They make rice and bring it like halwa and put it. They say, how can you, is this the way you cook rice? And then she says, I'm going to have, puliyogare. Now, how can you have this is puliyogare halwa? It's not puliyogare rice. Now, such a fellow is not qualified to say that I am going to be indifferent to what's happening around me. Now, this man has become indifferent to what's happening to himself. It's the objective. Detached, totally unconcerned. Such a person we are discussing. He will not have any thought. If at all he has a thought, it's only that single thought that he had. Now that flow also stopped. Mind is gone. Intellect is gone. What is left out? Only he knows. What is happening, only he knows. I have no idea. But scriptures, he says that individual merges with the Supreme Self, gains spiritual enlightenment. That experience, that state is the state of enlightenment. And you don't worry, he's going to explain that state more in detail in the coming chapter. So you don't have to, worry about, what will happen after that, sir? Don't worry, he's explaining that. So the next chapter he's going to explain. But all that you have to remember here is the process, how chanting that mantra, how meditating on that mantra is going to take you to enlightenment. How this is going to lead to that. What is the link? How does it happen? It happens in this manner. The mechanism is this. So he just gives you the mechanism here. That's all. The process he is explaining, so that in Vedanta, this is advantage. The entire thing is explained before you even commence the journey. Before you even start the journey, they explain everything to you. In Vedanta, they'll never say, after you come there, I will tell you. After you come to that point, we'll do nothing. It says, I'll give you the total starting itself. So you know exactly what's happening at every stage. This is the advantage of Vedanta. It doesn't say, after you come, first you do this, and then let's see what happens. And then I'll tell you what happens next. There's no such thing here. It gives you the complete system in the beginning itself. From the starting, basic constitution to your personality analysis, to your spiritual disciplines, to the stages that happens in the whole path, and the final gate. Om is a final gate. It takes you right up to the door. After taking you to the door, what is the effort needed for you to go inside? In fact, it even opens the door also. Om is, meditation is a process where we open the door itself. After opening the door, what is to be done? There's nothing to be done after that. You just, slide, you just slip into it. Automatic. That's what he is giving here. The mind is extinct, intellect is extinct. What is left out is pure consciousness. So all the conditioning is gone. The conditioned consciousness is gone. Does it mean that fellow will die? Wait. Okay. Wait till the next chapter. We will explain what happens post-realization. What is the state of enlightenment and what happens to that person internally and externally, all that he is going to explain in the next chapter. So till then, you just wait. Okay. But right now, he is explaining why we have chosen that mantra, why we are choosing an idol. It is impossible to conceive the ideal Brahman. Therefore, you have to choose an idol, and there is no way in the world you can conceive God without an idol. Only difference is which one you are going to use as an idol. Are you going to use the element earth as an idol? You are going to use the element water as an idol, fire as an idol, air as an idol, space as an idol. Which one you are going to use will vary. That's about it. But you have to use an idol. And of all the idols, the subtlest idol is sound. Amongst the sound, the subtlest is Om. Therefore, we have chosen Om. And he gave 4 reasons why we are choosing Om. After making the choice, what is he going to do? He goes and sits for meditation. He's chanting Om, Om, Om. With the idea of what? With the idea of enlightenment. So he has to be told how that enlightenment happens through this. Like how through Karma Yoga you reduce your desires. How Bhakti improves the quality of your emotions. How Jnanam gives a direction to your thoughts. All that he explained earlier. Same way, he is explaining here how meditation takes you to realization. A very important paragraph, to remember. Om, Om, Om. Thoughts flowing, thought stops, chanting stops, sound stops, mind is gone. Along with the mind, intellect has no pair to distinguish, because intellect means discrimination. Discrimination requires minimum a single pair to discriminate. Now there is no pair, there is only one silence. Therefore, intellect also gone. You transcend the mind, you transcend the intellect. For the first time, that person goes, sees what is existing beyond the realm of mind, beyond the realm of intellect. The capacity to go through what is existing beyond the realm of these two is what is known as enlightenment. That's why it is referred as Turiya, fourth state. The three states that is known to us is a conditioned states: waking, dream, deep sleep. They are all conditioned. The fourth state, he gets the glimpse of that. And the moment he gets a glimpse of it, he merges into that. He will not come back. There's no compromise after that. And he has a access to that. That much if you can understand enough. If not, you are able to understand other things. We don't have an access to a possibility where to look beyond mind and intellect. All that we can go through, we can understand, we can experience, we can conceive of, happens within the domain of mind and intellect. For the first time, he would experience something beyond the domain of mind and intellect, consciously. See, otherwise you will take it as deep sleep. No, deep sleep, you are not conscious. Meaning, you would not know that you are in deep sleep. Remember, when you are in deep sleep, you will not know that I am in a deep sleep state. You are not aware of it, you see. But here, this awareness is there. So the chant is going on, plus awareness is there. That is the beauty here. When you intone, there is a chanting going on and on and on, and then you get there. This is what he is giving here. And then he moves on to procedural details. Okay, principle and all is over. Now he goes to practical. Okay, now what is to be done for practicing meditation? If I have to practice meditation, what I should do? So to which he gives the procedural detail, what all you should do to go through meditation, the process. And then finally concludes with this realization. Right? We'll see that in the next class. Yeah. Thank you.